Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
Our topic is bikes and cars in the Portland area.
We will be dealing with who deals with this problem in Portland and what they're doing to deal with it.
Enjoy the video.
The main conflict we're concentrating on here is the relationship between bikes and cars in the Portland area. There have been many crashes and accidents that have made this a big problem. 20 years ago, the city of Portland was not a bike-friendly city whatsoever. There were accidents, fatalities, and a very hostile relationship between bicyclists and traffic. This statistical picture shares the popularity of biking in Portland and the growth it has had in the city. This graph only shows data up until 2005, which shares that there was over 10,000 riders making daily trips across the 4 river bicycle bridges in 2005. If it was that big of a number then, 10,000 daily, imagine what it is today, almost 10 years later. However, because of the heavy bike traffic on major streetways, there was bound to be conflicts. This graph describes the severity of crashes in the Portland area from 1987 to 2000. The crashes started at a peak of 195 annually, which shared with the city that it was time for a change. The trend of cycling continued to grow rapidly, as you can see of the blue line. While the trips were increasing, crashes and accidents remained mostly steady, with a slight decrease, which is a sign of progress considering the growth in cyclers on the roads. This next graph, being more recent, shows the amount of crashes has significantly decreased since the early 2000s. The brown and the black lines represent bicycle serious injuries and fatalities. The average number of crashes in the 1990s and the early 2000s from the previous graph was about 165 crashes annually. This graph demonstrates that that amount has dropped to an average of 25 incidents annually. That is a huge decrease due to the major changes geared towards bike safety. That is a great accomplishment for the city of Portland.
How do drivers of cars feel about the bike riders, and how do the bike riders feel about the cars in Portland right now?
I think in general, as you see more people riding bicycles, that the level of civility improves. So as I think about it, I've ridden my bike in cities all across America and different countries, and when I'm in places where there's less biking than in Portland, I have a lot more sort of people passing very closely and revving engines and more what I think of as sort of friction. When I'm in places that have more bicycle ridership than Portland, then I see less friction. I think for an American city, we are doing pretty well. A lot of times Portland is rated as like the most or the second most courteous drivers in America. And I think a part of that is kind of how people treat each other, whether they're walking, biking, or driving. So can we improve? Of course. Are there problems? Definitely. But by and large, I think that, especially in an American context, it's pretty good and getting better.
Okay. In the bike and car relationships in Portland, I found the Bicycle Transportation Alliance to be the organization most dealing with this issue. The executive director, Rob Shadowski's major plan for this issue is the World Class Bicycling Plan of 2013. It has just recently been initiated in 2014, and in this plan he decides to make bigger streets safe by adding a separate lane for bicyclists with their own lights. He wants to fix pre-existing bike lanes by making them safer for the bikers and pedestrians. He wants to include greenways into neighborhoods to make neighborhoods more bike-friendly, and he wants to add trails all along the waterfront of Portland.
The city office in charge is called the Portland Bureau of Transportation, also referred in this video as PBOT. Their current project is called the 20s Bikeway Project. This project will plan, design, and construct safety improvements to this important 9.1-mile north-south bicycle route. The route uses a variety of local residential streets and neighborhood collector streets between Northeast and Southeast 26th and 29th Avenues, and runs from the Northeast Lombard Street at the north end of the city to connect the Spring Water Corridor at the south end of the city. This project is funded through a $2.4 million federal grant. There are open houses for this project to inform the public about it. These open houses will allow for public comment on the design options developed to date by staff and the Stakeholder Advisory Committee. Another project they are doing is called the 50s Bikeway Project. The 50s Bikeway is a 4.3-mile next-generation bikeway project that is part of the Portland Bicycle Plan for 2030. And it includes 8 arterial crossing improvements to increase pedestrian safety. It will create a north-south safety corridor that connects 8 east side neighborhoods from the Rose City Park through Mount Tabor and down to Woodstock. Within a quarter mile are 19,600 residents, and within a half mile are 12 schools and 7 parks. The 50s Bikeway alignment was identified during the outreach and development of the 1996 Bicycle Master Plan and reconfirmed in the Portland Bicycle Plan for 2030. The project is funded with $1.5 million in the federal transportation funds. This plan was approved 4-0 at the City Council on September 29th.
The new pedestrian bike loop will offer a more protected walking and biking facilities around a set of inner streets and open connections, adding existing greenway loop from the Steel Hawthorne bridges and complementing a larger pedestrian bicycle network. I had the pleasure of doing an interview with Shayna Lyons, the head of the Oregon Department of Transportation Bicycle Pedestrian Coordinator. I asked her, what is the most pressing issue with the Central City Plan? She said, one of the biggest issues is time. Whenever there's an accident involving bikes or pedestrians, people often turn their heads to ODOT and city planners. Getting the job done in the upcoming years will soon benefit all the residents of Portland. She continued to say, I believe the most important part of the plan is separation of the bike lane from the roadway. This will help promote safety, but also a green approach. Often parents won't let their children ride long distances. This gives families an option to explore all parts of the city by bike, and also promoting a more green Portland.
One of the projects they're working on is called Winter Riding Promotion. The rain never stops us Northwesterners. To celebrate the joys of winter cycling, the Portland Bureau of Transportation, PBOT, promoted an event called Winter Cruise Month, which ran from mid-December through January. They wanted to remind Portlanders that winter is a great time to bike and the benefits are right outside our doors. They concluded statistics of January 2013 and January 2014. These statistics share a giant growth of riders compared to January 2013. There were more than 18,000 additional bike trips across the Hawthorne Bridge this past month. That's a 19% increase. And while January 2014 had a lot of dry days, even on days with rain, there were 9% more cyclists crossing the Hawthorne Bridge compared to 2013. The promotion went well, and the PBOT can say they were responsible. It's projects like this that they keep the bike community growing.
The significant project the Portland Bureau of Transportation is constructing are called bike corrals. Portland corrals provide efficient use for street of bicycling parking in areas in high demand. Corrals typically can park 12 to 24 bicycles in the same spaces as 1 or 2 cars, free up congested sidewalks, and improve visibility at busy intersections of those on foot or behind the wheel. On October 2013, the 100th bike corral was installed in Portland. They are currently working on more of these bike parking duties around the city.
The major project that the Portland Bureau of Transportation is responsible for is something called the Neighborhood Greenways. The Neighborhood Greenways began in 2010, and they are residential streets with low volumes of auto traffic and low speeds where bicycle and pedestrians are given the priority. If you've ever seen the green lanes on the side of the street with the bicycle man in front of them with two arrows looking like this at the top, that is a greenway. The Neighborhood Greenway project tactics are installing speed bumps and stop signs, installing traffic barriers for a lower speed in the neighborhood areas, and a safer area for bikers. Currently, their volume's over 1,000 cars a day, and their goal is to decrease that to 500 cars a day and have more people biking and walking instead of driving. They also implemented a 20-mile greenway speed limit for cars. They also have guide signs for bikes and medians in the road for safer street crossing. They also have greenways separating streets and sidewalks or bike lanes, which captures traffic emissions and rain runoff. So they separate the road and the bike lane with plants or just greenway sustainable methods to enhance the greenway project to more than just biking. It's now affecting the environment by creating those outlets for other areas of the city. The goals of the Greenway project are to reduce auto cut-through, provide safer bicycling and pedestrian connections, reduce auto speeds, help people cross our busier streets, and guide people on the routing. It also provides more eyes on the street, which relates to our in-class reading about sidewalks. More people on the street, and it leads to safer roads and a safer community overall.
So, how does the city engage the public through the issue of bike and car relations? Well, they send out thousands of letters to people every day, and their webpage is actually constantly changing every day and updated about the meetings and about the issues. So where do they hold the public meetings? They have open houses, which they have informational signs and boards, and it's spread out where people can come in, almost like an open house. And they also have staff members reading from the boards also, and answering questions. And they also have town halls where the director, bike official of the Bureau of Transportation, talks in front of a open house, and he's also answering questions to people, to the public, news, and he's on the stage, of course. And they also have online surveys, and they hold many venues for the public. So they would occasionally hold public meetings. If they have a spectrum of projects, they would obviously have a meeting, but if it's something like they're installing a stop sign or they're painting an intersection, that's no need for any meetings. Like, it's because it's easy, you don't need to, it's really easy, it's not complicated, you don't need to figure anything out, it's right there. But if they're working on a road, say like on Foster, they'll probably have like 2 years worth of meetings, and it kind of depends on the complexity of the project.
Thank you for watching the video. Any questions?